Donald's coming to set you free, bringing the light for all to see. No more tunnels, no more fear. Trump Gaza is finally here. Trump Gaza shining bright, golden future, a brand new light. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza #1. Trump Gaza shining bright, golden future, a brand new light. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza #1.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Tabs on Tap. I'm Tabitha Hassell. What do you think about that? Trump Gaza. Will it compete with Dubai? That's what we're hearing. Donald Trump himself sharing that video, which he did not make, but he likes to share the videos that other people make, which I love. I think, I know there's a lot of big plans for Gaza. What will they be? A lot of people say that it's going to be a very beautiful area. Gaza is actually a very beautiful area. And it's unfortunate, all of the war that's taken place there and all of the hardship. And we haven't talked about Gaza in a little while, and there's not really any new news because there's been so much other stuff going on. But still, a plan in the works to, of course, obtain the Gaza area and turn it into potentially some type of recreational tourist attraction, very similar to Dubai or possibly even rivaling Dubai. We'll talk about that more as more information becomes available. Good morning, Allison. Good morning, Paula. Another beautiful day today. I think in this area, we're going to get up to maybe 60 degrees, 59, 60 degrees. I'll take it, And then I heard yesterday, there's something going on up in Canada, those darn Canadians, and we might have another snowstorm in the next few days. So I hope that's not true. I am so ready for really nice, beautiful, warm weather. I'm so ready. I'm sure you guys are ready too. So ready. Another day, a lot of stuff going on in the news. Col Joe Adams joining us here shortly at 8 a.m. Can't wait to talk to him. Lots going on. Texas rancher in Brownsville, Texas, I'm sure you guys heard, was killed by an IED planted by the cartels. Not a surprise there. I think we're going to see more of this. Is that something we're going to see even further away from the border? Obviously Brownsville, Texas, they've certainly had a lot of issues over the years with violence and so on. And are we going to see more of these IED type attacks? Well, we'll get into that with Col Joe Adams when he joins us. Oh my gosh, so much to go on. Trump's desk bugged. I mean, that's crazy, isn't it? We'll talk about that also. I'm just going to jump into some things because we don't have a lot of time. I always try to get started on time when I know Col Adams is joining us so I can get some topics in. And then after, of course, he joins us, we'll talk about some other things and certainly enjoy the topics we'll discuss with him. But, every single time I got ready today, I was on time. And then I'm just waiting for the show to upload. Normally it's like instant. Today, for whatever reason, I think there's just a reason. It just wants me to start at like 7:40. I don't know why. Why even bother looking till 7:40? Because that's usually about the time I pop on. If it was back in the old days with one of the other shows, things would have been absolutely mad if it didn't get started on time. But that's okay. We're pretty laid back here. Dottie, good morning, Dottie. Started seeds indoors, 71 in North Carolina yesterday, 60s the rest of the week. I've been trying, Dottie, to get my seeds started. We're going to talk about some of this gardening on Friday. We didn't last Friday. We'll pick it up again this Friday. I'm trying. I just don't have time, which, speaking, by the way, of sleep, if you probably don't see me that well in this show, but my eyes are puffy and dark. I had dark circles under. I actually slept more than 3.5 or 4 hours last night. And when I do that, it just sets my whole day off in a bad place. And so I woke up this morning, I had these dark circles and puffy rings under my eyes. And I'm like, man, for some people, sleep is refreshing. For me, it's not. If I sleep more than 3.5 or 4 hours, I just feel groggy and my eyes are all messed up. So we'll see how that carries on throughout the day. So you remember not too long ago how Donald Trump sent his office off. They said to clean it, maybe do some repairs. And then he has that temporary new office. Well, I'm hearing from a lot of folks in the know who claim that his desk was actually bugged, that they found out his desk was bugged. And so therefore they removed it from the Oval Office, debugged it, trying to do some good searches around the White House to see if any other areas are bugged. I can't, I have no way to confirm this, but I'm hearing it from some very reliable sources that this is the case. I mean, it shouldn't surprise any of us. I'm actually surprised they wouldn't have checked for bugs ahead of time, because wouldn't you expect them to bug Donald Trump's office, in particular his desk? But they've got a lot of new technology out, a lot of different options. Maybe they just didn't see it. I don't know the full story, but I'm sure it will develop. Allison says, yes, it was. And Paula says, you heard about the desk bugging too. Yeah, it's pretty crazy, isn't it? There's so much going on. And, just to follow up on yesterday we were talking about the CIA, the FBI generals deleting files, erasing files, burning evidence. I mean, it's absolutely insane. And the more I hear about it, the more that I hear that it's true. And I had a couple quotes here from some folks. Charlie Kirk picking up the story. If you follow Charlie Kirk, talking about exactly the same thing about the desk being bugged. And I've got some quotes here from him, but I think arrests are coming. I think they're going to get to the bottom of what's going on here. And whoever it is that's deleting these files, burning evidence, permanently erasing files within the FBI investigations, CIA investigations, these people are committing treason. I mean, that's exactly what this is. It is treason. It's treason. And then we hear, of course, that Pam Bondi has stepped up, Attorney General Pam Bondi, and has said that they're going to release the Epstein files on February 29th at noon. Now, what exactly is that going to look like when they release the files? Or good morning, Karen. How exactly, are we going to be able to go somewhere online and look them up? Who's going to present them to us? Are we going to see them before or at the same time as Anna Paulina Luna and her investigative team? We don't yet know what this looks like, but why February 29th? What is it that they have to do between now and February 29th? Why can't they just give us the files today? Quite honestly, why can't they give us the files today? And so Vincent Kennedy weighing in, and he says, I'll be the optimistic one and say that a big reason why the Epstein Diddy lists haven't been released is because the exact same time they will have to round up people for questioning. Going to take some organization from the FBI. Cash just got in, taking the delay as a good sign. Is it possible? Is it possible? Oh, that's right. You know what? You're right, Charles. There is no February 29th. Well, that's kind of interesting because that's exactly the quote that I read from Pam Bondi. I'll have to go back and look at that. I don't think I have the date wrong. Thank you for saying that because you're right. So what exactly does that mean? I guess we'll have to wait and see. Good morning, Charles and Karen. And switch to a different platform. Looks like it might be okay now. I know, Kimberly. Good morning, Kimberly. There is no February 20th. I know that's what I read. Oh, Charles, you lost my Facebook feed. I don't know what's going on, so I apologize to anyone. I don't know what's going on. So, Charlie Kirk, this is Charlie Kirk's statement in regards to the files being deleted. He said, right now, the intel community is destroying the evidence. I am hearing this from a very credible source. Single subject polygraph is how you ferret it out. Leg irons and perp walks is how you fix it. Game on. And Paula says, I hope the files are released right before the Oscars. Well, that would be interesting. Good morning, Mary. Good morning, Fred. And yeah, Karen, I don't know why. I don't know what's going on with my connection. I apologize. The only thing I was really talking about is how the CIA, FBI, and allegedly some generals are deleting files, erasing files permanently, shredding documents. They are allegedly literally burning evidence. And is it true? Is it not true? Everyone seems to think that it is true. So at this point, I'm going to say there's a lot of credibility here to say that it is true. And we also heard yesterday that, and this came straight from CNN, that there are a lot of deep state bureaucrats willing to sell state secrets to our enemies if Donald Trump doesn't play nice. Now, what do you think about that? That's called treason. That's called treason. Putting people's lives at risk, betraying your country. I do think of our country as a company, so easy mistake to make. But yes, that's called treason. And it's unforgivable what these people are doing. Absolutely unforgivable. And so I apologize to you guys who are having some interruption. I don't really know what's going on, as I never do, because it just kind of does whatever it does. And then here we go, Tulsi Gabbard, weighing in on the possibility that some deep state folks are selling our company's secrets to stay out of jail. And that's really what it's about. It's about staying out of jail. And Comey is one of those people. We're going to get to that. Tulsi Gabbard, what she states, they're exposing themselves. Their loyalty is not at all to America. These are exactly the people we need to root out. Yes, it is. Robert says, sounds like the Clintons. And good morning, Jay. That was statements from NSA folks. Yeah, NSA, man, those people have lost their minds. And yeah, here's some more quotes from some other people. Anna Paulina Luna from Florida. There is a massive war happening in the intelligence agencies right now. The corruption being exposed is treason. It is treason. And I do think we will see, finally, we're going to see some arrests. There is no way that they're going to let this go. Tulsi Gabbard is not going to let this go. Kristi Noem, not going to let it go. All of the leaks that are going on right now, in the FBI, talking about telling what's going on in ICE, telling people when we're going to have raids and conduct raids so people can escape. These are not just regular people, mom and dads or whatever. These are people who are violent gang members that are somehow getting this information from the top. And Kristi Noem, she says, I know who it is. And, they've done polygraphs. They're going to do the same thing within all of these intelligence agencies, and they're going to find out exactly what's going on. Good morning, Linda. Good morning, Sherry. Charlie Kirk weighing in as well. CNN now says that top leadership at the CIA are worried anti-Trump personnel may be involved to sell out America to a foreign power. What in the world is happening? What is happening? We're going to see arrests. I'm telling you, we are going to see some arrests. Don't think it's not going to happen. They are going to come after these people with everything they have. Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard. I just can't talk. I just need to start all over. Tulsi Gabbard and Kristi Noem. I mean, they're going to come after these people. And Comey, I think, is going to be at the top of the list. He is going to be at the top of the list. Because you know what? Did you hear this plot that's been uncovered? This is crazy. And they're referring to it as the honeypot scandal. And that is that now that Kash is in office and they're combing through these files, what they can get to before these other folks delete all of the files, they're finding out that Comey What he did, James Comey, of course, that he went through and hired two female FBI agents in some elaborate scheme to entrap Donald Trump. He hired these two female FBI agents, attractive ladies, in 2015 to infiltrate the Trump campaign by flirting, acting suggestively, and so on to try to get as close as they could to Donald Trump. I mean, can you believe that? James Comey, he's going down. That man is going to spend the rest of his life behind bars. No question about it. And Jay says this is what hiring based on DEI gets you. Yeah, you're probably right. And so I think jail time is coming for a lot of folks. We're finally going to see that accountability that we've been looking for. Because if it is true, think about this. If this is true, that we have deep state, bureaucrats, people within the FBI, the CIA, all these different divisions, if they are truly the Department of Justice, if these people are truly threatening to sell secrets, that could potentially, harm our national security, harm our president, harm us Americans, to stay out of jail. I mean, it's literally it's a threat, it's exploitation. If they're being that outward with it, that hey, if you Donald Trump come after us, if you try to put us in jail, we're going to sell all of these secrets, all of this classified information to foreign entities. It is crazy. Robert says, sounds like the CIA. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And then of course we have, again, these people are burning evidence, destroying files, and still till even today, even this morning, I'm still reading that some of these are the Epstein files. And we talked about this a little bit yesterday, and we know then, of course, we all said, well, the files are allegedly on Pam Bondi's desk, and then they said, oh, we're going to release it. I'm starting to think maybe that was a joke, that they're going to release those files on February 29th at noon, because as you guys corrected me saying that there is no February 29th. So that has to be a joke, I'm guessing. So who knows when we're going to get this information? Will we ever get this information? Probably not. Good morning, Scott. Probably not. Jay says they weren't hiring qualified patriots, but we're hiring left-wing supporters. Oh, of course. Paula says there's no doubt we have a shadow government, no question about it. And they are working hard, diligently behind the scenes. And we all said that there was never going to be a peaceful transfer of power. We all said that. And that's exactly what's happening right now. They may have portrayed it to be a peaceful transfer of power, but it is anything but a peaceful transfer of power. All they had this plan from day one, that as soon as they could, and almost like a sleeper cell, if you think about terrorism, like a sleeper cell, all of these folks within ICE, within the Department of Justice, within the CIA, within the FBI, within our other intelligence agencies, there are many intelligence agencies besides those. They're all in there. They got the call, they're deleting files, burning evidence, permanently erasing. People say, well, how can you permanently erase anything? Good morning, Georgia. And you can permanently erase files using a program called Terminator. I did some research about this. There is a program called Terminator, a lot like BleachBit, that Hillary Clinton used. If you use this program called Terminator, you will completely delete any files and any trace of these files in a computer system. So it certainly is possible to permanently delete these files. And I was kind of thinking about this because remember that when we started talking about the JFK investigation, remember how those files had been handed over? They said, oh, we handed all the files over. I don't remember who they were handed over to at the time. Maybe it was to Anna Paulina Luna, but those files were all handed over and they're going to be disclosed and blah, blah, blah. Then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, well, A, we've never heard the JFK files. If they were released, no one's talked to us about it. And B, a couple weeks later, they're like, oh, the FBI found 2,400 more documents that they never told us they had to begin with. And that's probably the same thing with the Epstein files. They probably handed over the minute amount of details that they could, but really the good stuff was still in the system and they were combing through it just like they were doing the JFK files. Let's just face the fact that we're never going to find out. We'll never find out what's going on. I don't know what's going to happen. I hope a lot of people go to jail over it. But I don't know if we're ever going to find out the truth because, they're probably rewriting the truth right now as they stall. So, does Pam Bondi have the Epstein files? We don't know. We just don't know. We don't know. We'll never know. I'm at this point, I'm convinced we'll never know. And we have Colonel Joe Adams joining us here. And we're going to talk to Colonel Joe Adams of the Washington Guard. Can't wait to catch up to him. Let me bring him into the show very quickly here. So much to talk about today with Mr. Adams, and it's going to be quite exciting, I do believe. Colonel Joe Adams, welcome to Tabs on Tap with the Washington Guard. So happy to have you this morning. What's on your mind today?
I was listening to your show before we came on, and a lot of just interesting things you brought up. So you sent over to my producer, i.e., Deanna, some things you want to talk about, and you were right on target. I'm thinking about the same thing. So where do you want to start?
How about, since we're already talking about it, we're eventually going to get to the cartel using IEDs and some of the other very serious things that are going on. We have to get around to that. But while we're already on the topic, what do you think about these stories? And by the way, some of these comments coming from, and yesterday I called him General, from Colonel Douglas McGregor, your friend, saying the same thing, that, there are generals involved. There are people within our intelligence agencies burning evidence, deleting files, permanently erasing different types of investigations that have taken place.
Yeah, I bet they are. People were wondering why Donald Trump's firing a lot of the generals at the Pentagon. Well, this is the exact reason. Those are political appointed, high-paying jobs. But people don't understand that we won World War II with four or five-star generals, just four. Oh, I'm sorry, seven in World War II. And at the Pentagon now we have 44. So they got to go. Those are just gifts, easy money. Again, follow the money. There it is. Hey, but you mentioned about they found a bug in Donald Trump's desk.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, of course, I'm an expert on that. And I really am. I did that kind of work for years. And as far as primarily, well, not only did I place bugs, but I also located bugs. So I know how the whole system works. They, truth be known, they found that bug early on. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And they can also detect when it's transmitting and when it's not. They have the technology to do that. I did. And so here's what happens. A lot of times, if we found a bug, we kept it in place because we wanted to find out who did it.
Right, who's on the other side.
By planning disinformation. So we know they're listening. So we have actually had two. When I used to do it with at the Fenton automobile plant, when they would have meetings about their strategy for the year coming up, they actually had two books in the room. And so as I was monitoring the conversation, when my device would go off and say, uh-oh, somebody's sending a signal, they would change books, which is a disinformation book. So we're going down the list of an agenda in one book. All of a sudden, boop, we got a bug. Keep the same conversation. There's no way that bug was just newly discovered. Now, what
that makes sense, and that makes perfect sense, because I was wondering, I'm like, how would they not check that first? And who would plant the bug knowing they would find it?
Right. So there's two ways to find a bug. First of all, a person like myself that knows where to plant a bug, know where to look. The second thing is electronically. Unless that bug was transmitting and they didn't find it physically, it could have been there inert for a long time. I'll give you an example. I bugged a doctor's office years ago because there were some problems between partnerships breaking up the firm, the doctor's office. One doctor went this way. Anyway, so one doctor wanted to spy on the other doctor to see if he was stealing his clients. And so I bugged the office. I went in as a patient, bugged the office, right? Now, a bug is only as good as far as the power that can generate it. And usually these bugs will last maybe 30 days and the battery goes bad. Also, very, very seldom do you plant a bug you have to go back and retrieve. You just let it go dead, right? So about a year and a half, about a year and a half later, I'm driving down I-70, the Interbelt, going back to Clayton, and I happen to have my scanner with me in the car. And I was just kind of curious because I'm passing the doctor's office that I bugged, and I turned on my scanner and it's still working.
Oh,
I mean, after we plan on maybe 30 days, this thing about a year and a half later is still working. I think, oh my God. So anyway, if they didn't find it physically, then they only found it because it became activated and it picked up a signal. But I would have to think that device that we use should be going on in Donald Trump's office or around him 24/7. Hey, we got a signal.
yeah, I think so
And
too.
yeah, so anyway, so another thing they do, they call existing sound source. So we have a device to pick up a certain frequency, which is the bug, right?
Yes.
So to make sure which frequency it's on, so we play like our favorite thing to do is play ZZ Top, the music ZZ Top, okay? And so because of the chance of scanning frequencies and a radio station playing that song was hardly possible. And so when we would hear ZZ Top playing on our device, we know we got the right frequency. So that's how the whole game plays.
That's,
But
I have one of those detectors, Colonel Adams,
no,
and
you
it's
don't.
kind of, I've never been bugged, but I have a detector just in case. Like,
Yeah,
well, I own a security company, so I got all kinds of neat little tools
yeah.
and things, but it is interesting how it works, isn't it? And,
Oh, yeah.
then you got to ask yourself, well, who is it that's trying to bug his office? And what are, obviously, what are they trying to gain, which is clearly obvious. And then we, have to ask ourselves, are they going to get to the bottom of it? That's a very serious offense. It's a very serious offense to
Oh,
bug
yeah.
the office
Yeah.
of the United States president.
Big time. It's treasonous. So anyway, uh, it was a matter of time before the cartel caught on to the IEDs, and it's here now. So this is a wake up call. The same people that showed them how to build those massive, sophisticated tunnels was the Hezbollah, and of course, we know what happened. But you remember who actually somebody had to come up with the idea of a remote explosive device. And if you just to refresh your memory, those things weren't even seen in Afghanistan until Osama bin Laden came to power. So Osama bin Laden actually was the one who actually had the first idea. Hey, what if we make a remote control device? So it's here now. I thought I might know that rancher. Did you get the rancher's
Well,
name?
let me tell the story. And I do not know his name. What I do know is this was in
Yeah.
Brownsville, Texas. Just so everybody knows the story we're talking about. There was a Texas rancher. He was killed by a suspected cartel IED right near the Mexican border. Of course, most of us know where Brownsville, Texas is. They've had a lot of ongoing issues, of course, with the cartels. And it's really kind of crazy to think about this situation. He was driving his truck. The IED was planted in the road, just under the
Yeah.
surface of the road that he was driving across, and a road that is often traveled by Border Patrol, who no doubt was probably their intended target, and it killed this rancher. And Colonel Adams, you and I, the first thing I thought about was you when I read this story, because we've talked about this before, that the cartel has been trained by terror groups. We know ISIS is along our southern border. We know they've been training the cartels in their tactics.
Right. So about a year ago, we didn't talk about it, but the Border Patrol went through some extensive training the people and bringing them up to speed on IEDs. So the problem with that is those roads along the fence are not paved. They're dirt roads and very, very easily could put a IED in place and remote charge it from ignite it from the other side of the fence. So yeah, that's going to become a problem. Especially with the vehicles they drive. I mean, they just drive regular pickup trucks down there in vans. They don't drive any kind of armor plated vehicle. So yeah, it's going to become a problem.
Yeah, and somebody just sent me an article, Colonel Adams, that there have actually now been 2 people killed along the border, from an IED just yesterday. So not just one person, but 2 people killed from an IED yesterday. Said this the rancher, 74 years old, just unbelievable,
Hmm.
absolutely unbelievable. His name was Antonio Cespedes. So
And that's right across from Juarez, Mexico. When I went into Juarez to find a kidnapped child from the United States, we went through Brownsville. So that's the Juarez cartel over there. In fact, the most dangerous city in Mexico is Juarez, right across from Brownsville.
it certainly is. And Colonel Adams, what I ask, and I know I ask you this all the time, people are probably tired of me asking these questions. Is this something we could see further into the United States? Right now it's just happening along the border, but as things heat up, could we potentially see this in any of our cities and towns?
Oh yeah, because as an intelligence operative that I was for all those years, you got to be very, very careful of what you talk about because you don't want to give your enemy too many ideas. But right now, I'm sure Border Patrol is scrambling because they have to drive those roads every day. They patrol those roads back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And very dangerous situation. Like, I mean, talk about look over your shoulder. You better look under your car. So that yeah, this is the beginning. They're sending Border Patrol a message that you think you're in charge of the border, but you're not. So it'll be interesting.
It'll be even more interesting now that this has happened. We already know we have Marines over in Mexico allegedly training their military and their police. We know they're there to conduct their own missions. But now that this has escalated, are we going to potentially see military action on our part against the cartels?
Yeah, I mean, I said early on before they announced the military is going to the border, I said that drawing a line in the sand and daring your enemy to cross it, that's not the way to do it. You have to cross the line yourself and go in and take them out. We need to get into Mexico 1 to 200 miles deep and take these guys out. I dreaded saying that, and then turn right around. Of course, to be tactically efficient, they have to go inside Mexico. Our military, and sounds like we're there as military advisors right now. Just like we talked about, they always do that. Oh, bring us in as advisors. That's
Well, we're
not. That's
there.
not.
Exactly. We were there as advisors, Army, Marines, and I believe some Navy. However, Mexico has given us permission as part of that agreement that we can directly go after the cartels. Mexico has given us that permission to fight the cartels. So, it's even though we're there to train, that's plan A. I think we all knew plan A wasn't going to work out. Plan B is that we go after them ourselves. And I actually expect that to happen, especially after this type of escalation.
Yeah, well, they're not going to do much training. The first, all they're going to do is set up communication between the police down there and the American military units. There's no training. They might do a photo shoot of training. They don't. People don't know. We said before they don't need to be trained. They're already trained. In fact, we trained a lot of them to begin with years ago. So
Yeah.
anyway, it's going to escalate. It's going to get worse before it gets better. Because the cartel's fighting for their life. We're talking, a multi-billion-dollar industry. They don't want to lose that. There's a lot of people in the government down there don't want to lose that either. So, who's your enemy? How many times was somebody killed in Afghanistan because the police that they trusted was a part of their unit, and they were just working for the bad guys? So, who do you trust? Who do you trust?
No one.
No, you can't.
That's
You
my
can't
motto.
let
You
them.
trust no one.
Yeah. So anyway, uh, oh hey, I was channel surfing the other day, and I found this. I didn't even know what the station was, and I clicked it on, and Kehoe was on there, which are from a Jeff City. And he was being interviewed, and I don't even know what this channel was. It didn't say news or anything, but he's being interviewed. And the interesting thing is, Kehoe said on the interview that there's 77,000 illegal aliens in Missouri. I never had a head count. I didn't know that.
I did not know that either.
But he also said it's costing the state of Missouri $460 million a year.
Wow.
But and then I did the math, and I think it's like right out, just short of $6,000 per illegal alien a year. It's costing the taxpayers of Missouri. So
That's right.
I'm waiting for the follow-up question from the interviewer. Okay, thank you for telling us that. What's the plan?
Right. What are you going to do about it?
And they went on to something else. Now,
That's
I don't know if
crazy.
that was set up and he was only going to answer certain questions, but why wouldn't you ask, now that you know they're here, what's the plan? How are we working with the federal government? Tell us your plan. And they
Does
didn't
he
do it.
have a plan?
Yeah.
Does well, Blackwater could help him out. I'm not sure if you've heard Colonel Adams, but Eric Prince, of course, the CEO of Blackwater, has stepped up and he wants a contract with the United States government to where he can, as a Blackwater, owner, start transporting illegals out. Of course, that would be a multi-billion-dollar contract he's looking for. But do we need private contractors? Can we handle it? Can the government handle it, or do we need to hire private contractors to speed up the process?
Well, I know a lot about that world, and I was surprised I guess they said Blackwater because everybody knows what Blackwater is. But that's not the
Yes,
real name. No, that's
you're
not the
right.
real name. They changed the name of the company. I think they're using Blackwater now. So if they use their legitimate name they're using now is the Academy with an I instead of a Y. So I think they reversed that because what happened? Those guys were uh, either murdered or tortured some Afghanis these as contractors. Blackwater was, and they got in trouble, got sued, and he was in hot water, and they kind of liquidated for a while, but then they came back again, and they just changed the sign on the building that says the Academy. But now they're saying Blackwater again, so I'm a little confused. I think Blackwater gets the publicity
It
because,
does.
yeah, but whereas most people don't know the real name is the Academy, which is
Correct.
actually irrelevant. Now, the problem that I seen within Blackwater was they started at first they were top drawer special trained, but around the less qualified people they were hiring. In fact, I talked to some. They were going to hire some people to go back overseas, and but the last or the academy people that where are they getting these guys? Some of these guys take the job because they can't get a job. They're unemployed, and so they go back to their military skills. And in fact, some of the guys that they were hiring weren't even ex-military. So I don't know. A good friend of mine was part of that group who was killed here in the last couple years. He was from Springfield, Missouri, and he was part of the academy, and he primarily worked over in Nigeria. Anyway, uh, they've got good people in whatever the name is, academy, or they've got good people, but you're talking about arrest. Like and they can be deputized, but I know what the cops are going to say. Hey, these guys have never been through the academy. I mean, the police academy. They don't know the procedures. Are we that desperate? I think that the academy people could be used. The Blackwater people could be used to transport these
And
people.
that's
But
primarily what they want to do. Is they primarily just want to have a role transporting. They have private planes, and they said, "Hey, we'll hire we have pilots, we have private planes," but they want an awful lot of money to do it. So we've got to decide: is it worth spending the money to expedite the process, or do we save some money and then just let it play out for a while?
well, it's much more difficult to resolve a problem than it is to implement it. And so what Donald Trump's running into is correcting all of the things the Biden administration, who I saw, and I heard a great term the other night on Levin. He called it the Biden administration was involved in soft tyranny. So that's tyranny that you actually can get away with. I think that I've never heard that term before, soft tyranny. I thought tyranny was tyranny. No, but if you think about it, that's exactly what the Democrats and the Biden administration were doing was soft tyranny. And I always said before, you cannot conquer a government unless you break it first.
Oh, it's
And
broken.
they were look what the money that they've wasted and spent and gave away. they were hell bent in our national debt. They were hell bent on breaking this country, and people aren't talking about that anymore. This was intentional. Look at the things that Biden did just before the inauguration at the last minute, giving millions of dollars away. Why? They've got to break the country. Anyway, so Trump's got a tough job ahead of him, and
He
he's
doesn't.
the only guy that can do it.
And I want to throw something in. I don't think you were listening to the show yesterday, and something we talked about was the president of Venezuela, Maduro. He has come forward and he has stated that he has documents, he's already handed them over to the United States, that said that Joe Biden asked him to send over his toughest criminals, his Tren de Aragua gang members, to open the prisons and send them all here. And he allegedly has given these documents to our government. He plans to testify. So, what would that mean, for Joe Biden? To me, that would also be treason. And if you're intentionally bringing criminals and gang members into our country, what kind of deal would he have possibly made? Or what would be, I can't even fathom what his objective would be by doing this.
These people are crazy. And they thought they'd get away with it. If the elections had went the other way, they would have got away with it.
They sure would.
Things are, not that I trust Maduro, okay. He might be playing up to Trump.
Of course.
Okay, because that is so incredibly evil, which we all know that Joe Biden is capable of that. But that would be, and who else was there? It wasn't just Joe Biden by himself.
He doesn't make the decisions.
He couldn't dial the number to talk. So
right.
That's there's a lot of people, and here's what's going to happen. I went down that list yesterday of all these politicians that are multimillionaires now after a couple of terms. Now sometime they're going to have to be sitting across a desk from an IRS agent with their attorneys and when the IRS asks them, really? I see you're worth $140 million. You make $225 a year, $225,000 a year. Where did the money come from? So you're going to have rats leaving the sinking ship again. Some of those people that know each other are going to be ratting out the other people and cutting deals. There's going to be a lot of deal cutting, believe me.
I'm with you on that.
This is if they don't go to prosecution on these people, it's impossible. They have to follow the corruption and get these politicians and clean it out. And that Booker guy, the one politician, I hate that guy. There's some black guy, Booker.
Oh, Cory Booker.
Yeah, Cory Booker. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I hope they start with him. I'm sick of him.
I don't like him either. I hope they start with Comey. But speaking of millions, I was talking about this yesterday with Obama. Obama was the watch commander over his vice president Joe Biden when the Biden family was committing all of their crimes. Starting in 2014, well, we found out that Obama, he went into office as president of the United States with $1.5 million, which is quite a significant amount of money, but he got that from public allies, which is a story for another day. But now he's worth $135 million. Where did that money come from? You can't tell me that's all speaking engagements. How did he obtain $135 million?
We all know they're all dirty.
Every last one of them, including Republicans.
And then, but Bongino's going to be the assistant to the FBI director. That's great. I mean, there's a lot of people there's got to be Democrats out there right now losing sleep because everything that Bongino has talked about for years about the corruption, the crime, and now he's in charge of the investigations. Oh yeah. And he knows who they are. He knows what they've been doing. He's been talking about it. And right now, it's the Democrats have got to be pulling their hair out. I think it's hysterical.
I do too, Colonel Adams. I have a big question for you.
Already has his agenda.
Yeah.
Their agenda this entire time.
No question about it. We're going to find out. There will definitely be some arrests. No question about that. But Colonel Adams, do you think we'll ever see the Epstein files? The real Epstein files, the real names, the real information?
100% no. 100% no. And they're going to come up with based on national security. Once the president declares a matter of national security, no, I don't think so.
They're stalling. They're stalling.
Yeah, I mean, we know Clinton's on there. So anyway, no surprise of that. Hey, I said on the last show, people don't really understand the impact of this sex trafficking and human trafficking, how big it is, because you don't see it. I mean, you don't see it here in Washington. And what people don't understand is this is there was always human trafficking. Okay, we know that, but not to the extent. It's 1,000 times more now for one reason: at mass illegal immigration, the confusion, just like prohibition. You know, we have made the Russian mafia and all the rest of them who are involved in human trafficking, especially the cartel, we've made them multi-billionaires because of mass immigration, illegal immigration. It plays right off to it. Just like, we created an industry for them. They already had it. We just grew the industry for them by taking these people in and allowing, even in Europe, allowing mass immigration. And they know now it was a mistake. Just like prohibition. Prohibition created organized crime across the country. So we helped them. Prohibition was a really bad idea. The alcohol problem in this country was real bad. I interviewed a lady that was over 100 years old that lived through that. And she explained about the alcohol and everything during prohibition. Alcohol consumption got worse during prohibition because in the speakeasies, you couldn't leave with the bottle. You had to finish it. And this lady's telling me this stuff. And she said in Clayton, Missouri, you could walk out your door and there's drunks laying on the street all over Clayton. You had to step over them because of prohibition. So anyway, mass illegal immigration is fed the organized crime world. There's actually as many as 200 organized crime associations in the world. Over 200 organized crime, and that trilateral commission where they're all working together. And now we've got the cartels involved. So we create these incidents that help organized crime.
There's no question. And Colonel Adams, somebody on the comment line has a question for you from Abe. He said, what are your thoughts on Illinois decriminalizing sex workers, encouraging sex slaves and trafficking, which also happened in the city of St. Louis not too long ago?
Well, that's insane. That's insane. That's insane. But I thought legalizing marijuana was insane too. I mean, we just somebody's making money from this. That would be crazy. I mean, that's it. That would be promoting women and other people to get involved in it. No,
it certainly does, and we all know it just leads to sex trafficking, exploitation of children, drug trafficking. There's so much that goes with prostitution. Some people see it as a victimless, situation, but that's not at all the case.
No, it's all connected, and eventually, and when they do that, here comes organized crime. Now that it's legal, and you got offices. Now we got extortion. If you want to stay in business, you're going to pay us. They're idiots. They keep creating laws that help organized crime.
Absolutely. Colonel Adams, I know you probably don't have a lot more time. I want to throw this in before you have to leave us. What do you think about the United States and Donald Trump strengthening relationship with Russia? We know now that Donald Trump plans to visit Moscow. That's historic. And, we know that we have all of these, even, BRICS has been making announcements about the strengthening relationship. Donald Trump is going to talk about it. He's going to have an address to the nation on March 4th at Mount Sinai. And he's going to talk about the future of the United States. And a large part of that future is going to include Russia.
Well, somebody once said a sign of a true professional is a man who's willing to shake hands with a person they wouldn't normally shake hands with. I mean, that's just the way it is. You got to do business. I'd rather have Russia as an ally than as an enemy.
No question.
I mean, that's a no-brainer. If we can turn Russia around, now all of a sudden, all of China is going to be going, hey, wait a minute. And now it's 2 against 1. So anyway, we have to reestablish relations with Russia. If we don't, it's a big mistake. And Donald Trump's the genius. I'm telling you, man's incredible.
Well,
Every day
you're
I
right.
wake up thinking about
You are absolutely.
and
Oh,
he can get it done.
frozen.
No, he wants Greenland because he already understands the threat of China and Russia in the Arctic. Hello,
That's right.
I
We talked
mean
about that yesterday.
he's,
Absolutely so. Absolutely
he
so.
is
Well, that's our
doing
goal.
he is doing what America needs. And
He
get
is,
out of his way. If you're not
and
going to help him, if you're not going to help him, get out of his way.
right. I agree completely. And I think we're going to see a lot of change. Europe is going to be our adversary. We're going to buddy up to Russia and eventually China. China will be a little bit tougher nut to crack, but we will get there. But yesterday, talking about this deal that Donald Trump has made between Ukraine and Russia, who else, what kind of diplomat could make this type of deal where both sides have something to walk away with? And not only that, but Donald Trump secured us mineral rights, not only in Ukraine, but also in Russia. So
Oh yeah,
Russia is going to keep that portion that they've already taken, which is 70% of the minerals that Ukraine had, and they're going to share them with us. I mean, what a fantastic deal that is.
I know. Duh. I mean, mean, I didn't see that one coming. No, he did. He's doing exactly. When Zelensky was against everything. Yeah, really? Okay, let's see what time is it. Let's give him a couple hours. He'll change his mind. So
Oh, yeah.
people aren't going to screw with Donald Trump. Hey, but I got a whole list of stuff to go through. Run out of time. I've got a meeting. What time is it? What time is it? What time is it?
Yeah, it's 8:31.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have to run into a meeting. I apologize. I'll save this for next week.
Okay.
We'll talk about the Gaza hellhole and everybody else who's responsible. People, join the Washington Guard. When you join the Guard, you're never alone again. So thanks a lot, Tabitha, you hanging in there, and I'll see you guys next Wednesday.
Thank you, Colonel Joe Adams with the Washington Guard. You can see the ticker on the bottom of the screen. Colonel Joe Adams, if you want to reach out, WashingtonGuard.com. And there you see it going through. Colonel Joe Adams, Washington Guard, WashingtonGuard.com. Be sure to reach out to Colonel Adams. He would love to hear from you all. If you are anywhere in the vicinity of Washington, Missouri, and even if you're not, reach out to the Washington Guard and contact Colonel Joe Adams' wife, Deanna, and come out to some of the muster meetings. That's what you need to do. Get out to those musters because they would love to see you all there. So happy to have him. And Kathleen, good morning, Kathleen. I missed your comment. The entire reason this matrix works is those in leadership protecting each other by control of mankind is in false fear. Faith over fear. Why would you not release the list? Because we, through leadership, out of position and hold them accountable. That is what needs to happen. Release the list. I'm with you, Kathleen. Release the list. We, as Americans, we deserve to see it. You know what? Not only do we deserve to see it, but the victims should have some accountability. And I still don't know that we're ever going to see that list. I really just don't believe it. We'll see what happens, but I don't think it's going to happen. I don't. I think they're stalling. They're stalling for a reason. And earlier in the show, I had read a quote from Pam Bondi that said they're going to release it on February 29th at noon. And then thankfully, lots of very astute commenters said, wait a minute, this is a leap year. There is no February 29th. So I'm like, what is happening? Was it a misquote? Was it false information? I don't know. Did somebody hack one of her accounts? I don't know. I just don't know. But either way, lots going on. I don't know. Well, we'll just have to hang tight and see what we find out about those Epstein files. That's all we can do is wait and see. And, some other things to get into. We got a lot to talk about otherwise today. We were talking about that strengthening relationship with Russia. There's a lot going on between the United States and Russia right now. This is historic. And if you guys recall, I mentioned this a little bit yesterday. Donald Trump is going to address the nation from Mount Sinai on March the 4th. And he has already informed every news station within the United States that it's mandatory. They must carry his live address. And he is going to talk about, allegedly, we don't know, he's allegedly going to talk about how we are now a completely different country with new objectives and new goals. And I really think part of that new objective and those new goals is we're going to be moving away from Europe. We have to. Europe has lost their minds. As a matter of fact, the EU, Ursula von Leyen, she made a speech yesterday, and what she said, she said, freedom of speech is a virus. Can you imagine that? Freedom of speech is a virus. We are no longer having those common goals with these people. We need to steer clear of the European Union. They are not us, we are not them, we are not of the same cloth. Therefore, it is time to part ways. And there's a lot going on right now between the United States and Russia. A lot of you don't understand it and maybe don't like it. But I've studied these relationships for a long time. I've studied Russia for a long time. Putin has never ruled Russia while it was a communist country. They haven't been a communist country since, what was it, like 19, I think it was 1981, 1991. Isn't that terrible? I can't remember. I was just thinking about it this morning. And so he has never ruled under communism. He has never wanted to be a communist or run a communist country. And Russia actually has far more traditional values than we do in the United States under Democrat regime. So we actually have a lot more in common with Putin and with Russia than what most people think. And I think people have to do your due diligence to research it. That's all it takes, is just to research it, because we've all been fed the lies our entire lives, Cold War lies. We've always been taught that Russia is the enemy. And they were the enemy of the deep state. They were the enemy of the deep state. They are not the enemy of Donald Trump. They're not the enemy of the United States any longer, not under Donald Trump. And so things are going to change. And I think we're just going to have to embrace those changes. And in the best way to combat any fear you might have of buddying up to Vladimir Putin or buddying up to Russia is to do your research. That's all. Just do your research. And I thought some of the interesting things coming out of these conversations with Donald Trump, in the media, has been the view on the war in Ukraine. And Donald Trump, actually, it's kind of funny. He referred to Zelensky, of course, as a dictator recently. He's referred to him as little man, very derogatory terms, of course, to Zelensky, who certainly knows that these things have been said. And now Donald Trump has made it pretty darn clear that Ukraine started this war. Not only did they start this war, but this war would have ended without the United States being involved. And, for those of you who don't believe it, I'm going to play the clip. You can listen for yourself, where Donald Trump states that and we've been saying this all along, of course, we've always said this, that had this war began between Russia and Ukraine, and the NATO didn't get involved, NATO-aligned countries didn't get involved, the United States didn't get involved, it would have ended probably in the first week. But we kept it going. And Russia, whether you think they're strong, I have argued with so many people about this for the past couple of years. People say, Russia's so weak, their military is terrible. They're losing this war. I'm like, no, they will win. I've said from day one, they will win. They will win. And to say that their military is weak, Russia, one country, has fought against. Now, of course, eventually they had some mercenaries join in. They had North Korea join in and some Czechians join in. But they have fought against all of NATO. That's a pretty powerful military, whether you give them that respect or not. That's a pretty powerful military that they have fought against NATO forces this entire time. And by forces, I mean equipment, money, funding, and so on. So take a look at this little clip here from
Ukraine. I will say they're very brave and they're good soldiers, but without the United States and its money and its military equipment, this war would have been over in a very short period.
It would have been over. He continues to say in a very short amount of time. I don't know why my clips always stop that last couple seconds. It would have been over in a very short amount of time. And, a lot of Donald Trump's advisors finally feeling that they can freely speak, say, yes, Ukraine started this war and this is the end. Donald Trump making a historic agreement with not only Ukraine, but also with Russia. What type of diplomat, makes a deal with both sides? You create a peace deal and you have an agreement with both sides. We're going to get rare earth minerals from both Ukraine and Russia. What do you think about that? Not to mention, of course, that aluminum deal And this is even crazier, is tomorrow. This is going to happen tomorrow. The United States diplomats, Russian diplomats are going to meet in Istanbul, and they're going to talk about our strengthening relationship. And they're going to talk about what a future looks like between the United States and Russia. Who would have ever thought this could happen? I'm telling you, you might as well just embrace it, wrap your arms right around it, because this is the best thing that could have ever happened to us. Because we, your tax dollars, we have been propping up Europe all this time. You know, all of those G7 countries, all of NATO, we've been paying in all the money into NATO, all the money into the UN, all the money that goes to the UE. You know, $52 million, in fact, we were getting ready to pay to the WEF, which Doge stopped. And all of that has to end. And the best alliance we could possibly have would be with another very powerful military. And of course, that would be Russia. And if you guys recall, when Trump took office in 2016, there was a war going on in Syria, which continued for a very long time. And in that war, Obama had United States troops over there fighting allegedly against ISIS. And then we found out through Timber Sycamore, the project Timber Sycamore, that the truth is that we were actually supporting the terrorists. We were training, funding, arming the terrorists in Syria. We weren't fighting them. We were arming them. And we were there for a goal of ousting Assad. That was Obama's goal. And the mission, failed miserably. And the people we trained and funded, they went on to kill many Americans. All those people you saw burned alive in cages, a lot of those people were people we trained and that we funded and that we gave those weapons to, which is really unfortunate and awful. And then Donald Trump came in and he said, you know what, we're not continuing this mission. He canceled Project Timber Sycamore, and instead we actually started fighting terrorists. And we fought alongside Russian troops in fighting terrorists, maybe not literally beside Russian troops, but we had that common goal with Russia, that we were there for the right reasons under Donald Trump, actually fighting terrorists, not trying to oust Assad. And of course, now we all know what happened when they finally did oust Assad, right? Eventually, the Biden regime continued that mission and they were successful in ousting Assad. And now guess what? Now the terrorists have a caliphate, which they call, over in Syria, and now the terrorists are at the helm. Now they have a seat at the meetings. So just like what happened in Afghanistan, and that's what we, the United States, did under the Democrat deep state regime, is that we don't care about the people. We just have never cared about the people of any country. They're all just collateral damage. We have a long history of promoting Sunni terrorism. So it's a very sad, terrible situation. And those days are in our past. Those days are done, gone. They're in our past. We don't have to worry about any of that anymore. Thank God for Donald Trump. And I hope we're all going to bed at night saying a little prayer that our country is turning around. But it's a lot to go through to turn around. We're going to see a lot of arrests. We are going to see arrests. There's no question about it. These people are committing treason by deleting files, burning evidence, bugging Donald Trump's desk that we talked about earlier. Bureaucrats, deep state bureaucrats claiming, as reported again by CNN, that they're going to sell our most valuable secrets to the enemies because they don't want Donald Trump to put them in prison. So they tell Donald Trump, hey, if you keep coming after us, guess what we're going to do? We're going to, we're going to sell the secrets that we've uncovered, during our terms working in these intelligence agencies, and it put our national security at risk, put us Americans at risk. They don't care. They just don't want to go to jail. So we'll see how all that unfolds. And Kathleen said it requires mankind standing up, and that's all we can do. Allison, art of the deal. You got that right. Art of the deal. So some other things to talk about. I want to show you guys, kind of switch topics for a second. And I'm going to tell you right now to use some earmuffs. When I saw this clip, I seriously laughed so hard. It is, in my opinion, maybe I've got a warped mind. I thought it was really funny. But we talk on this show a little bit. Well, you guys in the comment line do probably more than I do talk about Ilhan Omar. And this is the funniest thing, but there's some foul language. So just be forewarned, just be forewarned. But this is, I think, one of the funniest things I've seen in a long time. It's a really short clip, but you've got to take a look at this.
Hi, We're here eagerly awaiting for Ilhan Omar to speak. Ilhan Omar is famous for many, many things. Now, I want to speak very softly and respectfully here. Ilhan Omar, did you consummate the marriage to your brother? Which is worse, immigration fraud or brother fucking? Are there any other relatives you fancy, Ilhan? How did
When I saw that this morning, I was laughing so hard. So I apologize for the foul language, but oh my God, that woman, did you see the look on her face? I don't think anyone expected that to happen. That was pretty darn funny. Uh, and she deserves it. I'm sorry. I don't like attacking people, so publicly, but that woman deserves it. I think it's so funny at the end if he asked her if there's any other family members she fancies. And no one saw that coming because he was so quiet. And then all of a sudden he yelled. I thought that was like one of the funniest things I've seen in a very long time, a very long time. And some of the other things going on, of course, Elon Musk to take part in one of the meetings today with Donald Trump, and people are freaking out. Like, oh my God, Elon Musk, he's not elected. Why is he taking part in any kind of meeting, governmental meeting? And you know why? Because Donald Trump hired him. He's one of Donald Trump's advisors. He has every right to be there. And you know what? When Joe Biden had these meetings, guess who acted? And we didn't know this at the time, or at least I didn't know. It was actually Jill. Jill headed these meetings. These are very important meetings where they make very big decisions. And then I've since watched a lot of videos, and here we have Jill. She's sitting at the head of the table. She is running the show. And, and I never really thought as Jill being all that involved in the Biden presidency, but there she was sitting at the head of the table, reading documents, talking about strategy. And then they want to tell us that Elon Musk is a problem and how he shouldn't be there, that he's illegitimate, he shouldn't work for the government. It is absolutely insane. The double-edged sword, right? It is absolutely insane, insane, insane. And so I want to talk about that. Kirsty Noem out talking about arrests. I'm going to play this clip for you very quickly because I'm telling you, arrests are coming. They are. We've got Kash Patel, we've got Dan Bongino, we've got Tulsi Gabbard, we have Kirsty Noem. They are coming after these people. And I don't know how long it's going to take before we see these arrests, but we are finally going to have that validation we've been looking for. So take a listen to
I have
her
found
statement here.
some leakers. We are continuing to get more. They will be fired. There will be consequences. And remember, when they leak information to the press in order to blow an op, they are putting law enforcement lives in jeopardy. They are risking their lives and putting their families in the position where they'll have to live without those individuals any further. So you bet we have used every tactic that we have. If you remember, we talked just last week about how I'm using polygraphs to go after and to really interview these folks because we are a national security agency. I have that tool I can use. Also looking at their emails, looking at their communications. And it's amazing how these bureaucrats who have an agenda to stop the work that we're doing to bring safety to America, how they will sell each other down the river if it's just to protect themselves. So don't worry, I am doing everything to find these leakers and to get rid of them so that we can do our work and our law enforcement officers and agents can do it.
That's right. We've got some great people at the helm. Arrests are imminent. It is going to happen. Don't think it won't. It absolutely will and is going to happen. And it's going to probably happen sooner rather than later. Something else I wanted to throw out there. As you all know, we've all been talking about Trump tax cuts. And of course, Democrats, and I'm not talking about Democrat leaders, I'm talking about Democrats that may be our friends, people in our community. They all say, oh, all Trump wants to do is make the wealthy wealthier. No, he's not going to cut any taxes, for the little people. Well, guess what? We finally passed yesterday, and there will be no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security. But guess what? Not one single Democrat voted in favor of this plan, not even one. So you've got to tell me, do Democrats really care about you? These people fight so hard for their Democrat leaders, and these people don't care about them. And I thought it was extremely interesting because some of you know the story, most of you now probably don't. But gosh, it was back in, I think, 2016, 2017, one of those years. I was out at one of my favorite establishments, having a good old time, talking to some friends. And I think I was kind of set up, but a girl that I know walked over to me with a guy, and she told the guy, and I don't talk about politics typically when I'm out. Somebody brings it up to me, I'll talk back about it, but I don't bring it up myself because that kind of feels like work to me. But she brought this guy over and she told this guy, "Oh, Tabitha's a big Donald Trump supporter." And so this guy started yelling at me and started saying, "Oh, Donald Trump," apparently this guy was a bartender somewhere else. And he said, "Donald Trump, he just puts his hand in my tip jar and he takes all my money. He takes all of my tips. I don't get any money because Donald Trump takes everything I've got." And I just started laughing. I mean, because in my mind, I was visualizing Donald Trump reaching his hand into this guy's tip jar and taking out money. And I was just laughing. I didn't say a word, not one word. I was just laughing. And then all of a sudden the guy like went behind me. I thought he was leaving because the door was on the other side of me. And he didn't leave. He went behind me and punched me in the back of the head with his full force. And before his hand left my head, my fist was in his face. So, thankfully I have a pretty quick reaction. And when he realized that I was going to fight with him back, he took off running out the door. I took off out the door chasing him. And I about punched a hole in his window as he tried to hurry up and scurry away, like the little woman that he was. And so, a long story is that back then, this guy was so irate, a bartender, because he said Trump was taking all of his tips. No, 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 honey. That's not how it works. And now look at it was come full circle now, hasn't it? Now all of a sudden, Donald Trump as president is not taxing tips. I need to go find that guy, by the way, and see if he's got a change of heart now that he won't have his tips taxed. But there are some crazy people. I'm telling you, there are crazy people in the world, crazy people. And Charles says, "What did you say? Did you say bite him?" No, trust me. His hand was still on the back of my head by the time my fist landed in the middle of his face because I do not play around. Nobody is going to play those games with me. Anyway, speaking of taxes, Argentina, the world, Donald Trump is inspiring the entire world. The entire world. Argentina has announced that they are decreasing taxes by 90%. Can you imagine that? Decreasing taxes by 90%. People are catching on. They're saying, "Hey, this isn't so bad. Maybe let's make our people happy for a change. Maybe let's bring wealth into our country. How about that?" And speaking of wealth, another comment from Tucker Carlson about the gold. We've talked a lot about gold lately, and Tucker Carlson made a post yesterday talking again about gold moving around behind the scenes, from country to country. And he said that's because we're going to have a new financial system in place. Now, that was a little hint at something. What do you think that new financial system is going to be? And then a lot of other people on other channels saying it's going to be XRP, it's going to be XRP. Is it? It won't be Bitcoin. I promise you that. It's not going to be Bitcoin. Will it be XRP? Possibly. Are we going to bring back the gold standard? Well, if we can prove we have any gold, maybe. We got to prove we have gold first. Are we going to back our money in gold? I think we should. I think we absolutely should back our currency in gold. If we have gold, we should back it in gold. And, that'll change everything for us as Americans. Gold, of course, I think it's at the highest price it's ever been. And I was thinking about this more. I'm like, man, maybe I need to buy some gold. And Mary says, "He assaulted you." Yes, he certainly did. And Jay says, "I have a family member rushing to get taxes done before it's cut." Scared it will take longer. Well, we've all got to do what we've got to do. But I'll tell you, salvation is coming. It's here. Things are going to change. They're going to change very rapidly for us here in the United States. But it's got to be torn down before it gets better. It has to be torn down before it gets better. There's a lot of things that need to be done. We've got to get rid of all this wasteful spending. We've got to cut the budget. There's just no way around it. And that is happening. And people want to say, "Oh, Doge, they're so terrible." As a matter of fact, that big story yesterday, 21 Doge people quit, 21 Doge IT people quit because they just can't handle what's happening because we're just tearing the government apart. And we're cutting funding from all of these very important projects that help other people in poor countries and whatever it is they had to say. And, that was all just a media lie, just a big media lie. these people were actually part of the Obama administration. They were hired in as part of the gosh, if I can talk, Obama administration hired these IT folks. They were all people that came from Google, from Amazon, from Apple, and they were all IT people, and they were there under a different division. It was called the Digital Services or something along that line. Well, then when Donald Trump took office, he kept some of these IT people and they evolved into Doge. That is the department that Doge took over. So I've always said that when we came out with the Department of Government Efficiency, it wasn't new. That Donald Trump just took this digital services department and renamed it Doge. It was already existing department where these people were IT. They could already do these audits. They just weren't doing the audits. And so therefore, of course, these people have those old Obama feelings about them. So, of course, they don't want to be part of the Donald Trump administration. But the news media made it sound like that these were people Elon Musk hired, that they were part of his team, and they were going against him and what he's trying to do for this country. And it was just a big, 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 big media lie. These were Obama people, very liberal. They had absolutely nothing to do with the Department of Doge other than the Department of Doge took over their former office. So that was the end of that story. It is so funny how the media likes to twist and turn things, doesn't it? Even now with Donald Trump in office, we're still being censored. I'm still getting messages on Facebook that my post has been deleted or I can't earn monetization. I'll never be able to monetize anything about the show because I've got so many bans against me. But, they're still censoring us. Don't think it's over yet. But eventually we'll get to that. We got a lot of other important things to do first. We've got a lot of people to arrest first before we get to, tackle all of the issues that are at hand. And I'll tell you, I can't wait until Allison says smear campaign. That's exactly what it was, Allison. I cannot wait until the Mount Sinai address to the nation on March 4th. Mark that on your calendars, March the 4th. That's just a few days away. Be prepared. Donald Trump making that address from Mount Sinai, which I think is just absolutely fantastic. And he's going to talk about the future of America, requiring every news network to air his address. Because remember the last time they would try to block him. They'll probably try to block him this time too. I don't know what authority he has to tell these different news agencies that they have to carry his address. But mark your calendars on March the 4th. You want to make sure that you are somewhere where you can watch this address. I know I'm going to. Anyway, that's about all I have today. We're going to end the show right about on time. Usually I'm way over. Lots more to talk about tomorrow, of course. There's just so much going on. Tomorrow I'm going to get into that $5 million gold card that Donald Trump has talked about. We're going to talk a little bit about the history of Ukraine. I've got a little video to show you guys that's going to talk about how Zelensky himself, how he has been involved in sex trafficking, how he had a mission to impregnate the women of Ukraine to carry certain genetics. It's pretty crazy. And so we're going to get into that. It's a pretty serious story. And so I didn't want to do it today when we didn't have as much time to talk about it. So we'll get into that tomorrow, talk about that $5 million gold card and what that's going to bring to the United States. People are going to look at this. They're going to tear this apart. But I'm telling you, it's a good idea. It's one of the best things Donald Trump could have come up with. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. A lot of other things on the plan. We're going to talk a little bit more about these Epstein files because we're going to get to the bottom of this. When are these files coming out? I'm going to do some deep research tonight and talk to some people I don't normally ask favors of in some of these intelligence agencies. And I'm going to try to get to the bottom of what's going on. So I do hope to see you all tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you to Col Joe Adams for joining us. Can't wait to talk to him next time. He said he had a whole list of things to talk about. Maybe he can join us for an extra show, and cover some of those topics. And anyway, hope you guys have a good day. I'm Tabitha Hassell with Tabs on Tap, and I will see you all tomorrow.